Welcome to all three of our panelists. Let's get this conversation started with a round of introductions, starting with our panel host, Justin White, who is the CEO of K&D Landscaping, founder of The Disruptors, and host of the Trades Talk podcast. Justin, thank you so much for being here today.
Awesome, Danielle. Thank you. Great intro. And I'm excited to get this kicked off, you guys. Well, we get to attend a lot of great webinars in the landscape industry. And I had the opportunity with Team Engine to team up with Tiffany and Andrew here to share with you guys a little bit about our experience with employee retention and how we are using technology to advance our abilities to retain, to promote, and to ultimately impact our team members and the greater industry at large. So shout out to everybody in the chat. I see you guys. Phil, Jason, we got Scott Lawn coming in. Hey guys, great to see you all.
I love that
And
everybody's AI bot is joining the chat also.
oh, you see, yeah, it's everyone's gonna get their notes, so
Yeah.
you don't have to take notes. So, well, I want to start by introducing our awesome panelists here. So, thank you guys for coming in. So, first off, Tiffany Peters. Tiffany is the president of North by Northwest Lawns in Austin, Texas, family company. She's succeeded her parents in this and works with her family. I believe two brothers, right, Tiffany?
Two brothers. Yep.
And
Two older
yes,
brothers at that.
that is an important key. And she has moved her way into president. She's really breaking barriers for women in the landscape industry and creating a foundation, which I believe is going to lead to an amazing growth over the next few years. So just really excited to have her on board. And from my perspective, Tiffany has implemented a lot of technology in the company, including Team Engine, and really took it from like a paper focused company to a tech focused company in just the last couple of years. So Tiffany, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on board.
And then we got Mr. Andrew Kraft. Andrew's a dear friend and a awesome industry leader. You guys have probably seen Andrew at somewhere, whether it's at a conference speaking about finances or technology, or maybe it's his flame-throwing robotic dog that he has on Instagram. But Andrew is one of the incredible leaders coming out of Dallas, Texas with Sight Landscape.
He's
He's
down
got
there.
his dogs ready to go. And he runs a $40 million company with 300 employees, a really powerhouse in Dallas. And one of the things that I've really come to admire about Andrew is his ability to manage high level financial acumen with technology enablement and then wrapping that up with culture. Those three things normally don't go into the same sentence and definitely not into the same leader. But Andrew somehow manages to leverage all those three to build an amazing company. So, Andrew, welcome to the webinar today.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, guys. So we're going to dive right in. And one of the things Danielle said, and I want to just reiterate, is we are going to be talking about recognition. We're going to be talking about retention. We're going to be talking about compensation. If you have questions throughout this podcast or this webinar, should I say, it's kind of going to be a live podcast so you can interact and interrupt us. Drop questions in the chat, and we're going to be monitoring that for just any kind of question that we could answer and ask throughout the podcast. I keep saying podcast, but it's a webinar. Okay, Tiffany, we're going to go to you first. So the first question I have for you is, how do you ensure your team feels appreciated? And what are some simple things you can do to ensure that recognition is given that makes a big impact in your employees' lives?
Honestly, two really, really simple things that anybody can do is recognize their birthday and recognize their anniversaries at work. Um, like I just had one the other day where he just hit his 6th year, right? And so automatically I get a notification from my payroll company letting me know that, hey, this person's birthday is coming up. And then also we do use Team Engine, and Team Engine also has the automatic messages as well. And so it sent him a text message, not an email, a text message saying, hey, congratulations for working here for the last 6 years. We love having you on board. Just something super sweet and simple. So recognizing those 2 points, but then also doing like one-on-one meetings with your managers, or even if it's not a manager, even with if it's a field crew, right? They want to have that connection with their leaders. And so just having a simple conversation and checking in on people really helps them feel valued and recognized.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well said. And I did want to set the table a little bit for everyone listening and watching to this. We're going to be covering 4 pillars today. And so this one pillar that we're in at the moment, we're talking about compensation and recognition. So Andrew, I'm going to toss that to you. Is there anything that you guys are doing that really helps to recognize and just ensure that team members are feeling appreciated at site?
I mean, it's all perspective, right? Like I don't think we do enough. Some people would think we do a lot, and it's super important, especially with all the culture stuff we're trying to do. Yeah, we're also using Team Engine, and then at our size, that's been great because we're right under 300 people. Um, that's a lot of birthdays and it's a lot of work anniversaries. So it creates some interesting then there's issues like then your inbox is flooded with notifications. So how do you, it's just more things to deal with. Do we group them all the that week's birthdays, or things like that? But yeah, we do those two. And then the other thing we really try to do, we're not perfect at it, but we really try to acknowledge and celebrate the wins. Like we had one account manager working on one of our bigger jobs that had all kinds of issues and then drastically improved like the crew efficiency stuff. And so just acknowledging that in the meeting, verbally, I mean, the look on his face was, it was good to be able to do that. So we're always trying to do that. We just can't do it enough. I wish we could do it more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when people hear their names mentioned in a meeting setting, in a group setting, in a positive way, they
Yeah.
they they really can build from that. And I'll add on to that. One of the things that we've been looking to do, we have these company barbecues every month, or it's a pizza party or a taco party, whatever, and we get everyone back a little bit early to the main branch to enjoy pizza or food or what have you for 45 minutes to an hour. And Chantel, who's on the call, shout out Chantel, she's our employee success team lead. She and I were talking yesterday about how do we make this not just a time where people come in, get food, hi, they sit in their little cliques and then they leave. And
Hmm.
so we're coming up with ideas. How can we recognize people publicly? And I will say, like, we haven't figured this one out yet. One of the challenges is like, we want to recognize a few people, Andrew, for similar reasons, improving efficiency, helping out a client, solving a problem. And then you recognize 5 out of 50 people, let's
Yeah.
say, and then well the other 45 people are like, well, I did something great, why didn't I
Yep.
get shouted out? Is there like, how do you guys go about that when you're challenged with a large company and you're trying to shout certain people out? You don't want people to feel left out. How do you guys go about making sure it's fair and it's a way to recognize everybody? Is that something that you guys have figured out yet? I haven't figured it
No,
out.
no, and we had the same thing just with birthdays. Like the
Yeah.
popular people, their birthdays were celebrated, a lot more. And then the unpopular people, me, like it just cruises by. And some of it depends on like is it somebody's birthday's on a Friday, then tends to be a funner day. Um, no easy answer, and we've tried a lot of things and it is just something we just try to, stay aware of. But yeah, no magic answer for that one yet.
How about you, Tiffany?
Yeah, I've
any
been
any
kind of
Yeah.
well, I have a lot less employees than Andrew. I have about I we teeter around, let's just say 75. So I haven't quite hit the 100 plus mark yet. Um, but I do hear you on that, especially with all those birthdays, especially like September. September is like the freaking like birth month of the century, right?
Yeah,
Everyone's
isn't it?
birthday is in
Yeah.
September.
Let's
Yes,
see,
it's insane.
Valentine's Day and then
New Year's,
New
right?
Year's. Yeah.
So, and so in those aspects, I'm kind of think, okay, like, do you do like a monthly post for your internal teams, right? And be like, hey, September, we have all of these birthdays, like, and list everybody out. So at least they're recognized individually, but also like a group. And that's just one aspect, right? Um, or even like getting like little actual birthday cards, and then you have like the management team sign it, and then you give it to that field crew. Or, because I don't see a lot of my field staff. I'll see them here in the morning, but throughout the day, most of my interaction is with my office, my admin, my manager team. But that doesn't say that my field crews are any less important. I just don't see them as often. So I'm going to have to try a little bit extra to get in contact with that person, whether it's texting them or, maybe dropping off that birthday card, right? Um, so it is a little bit of a challenge, especially when you got multiple people. But I think that as long as they can see the effort that you're putting in, then they feel valued.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And it can go, it can be as little as a handshake and a thank you for showing up and,
Hmm.
and working and being a great team member. It doesn't even have to be this big, huge, thought out, award. It can be simply walking into the field, stopping by a job site where the crews are at, shaking everyone's hands, looking them in the eye, and just saying thank you. Or,
Yep.
gracias. Speaking their language, I think goes a long way too.
Yes.
I I
Wow.
want to I want to pivot a little bit on this because as we talk about recognition, employees love recognition and team members enjoy being shouted out in meetings, but they also enjoy making money and having benefits.
Mhm.
And this is a bit of a challenge, right? In landscaping where we want to pay, I'd love to pay everyone 100,000, but the economics of our industry just doesn't allow that today. Hopefully that changes. How do you guys, and Andrew, I'm going to start with you on this. How do you guys approach benefits at Site Landscape? Are there anything that you're doing that you feel is maybe above and beyond the industry standard in your specific market?
So for our groups, we do PTO for the hourly guys, and I know not everybody does that. Um, and then for our salary, office, whatever, we're pretty flexible on that stuff. And again, always looking for things. And there's, yeah, you just can't always pay more, but flexibility with the PTO today, and we went through this interesting thing after COVID, and there was a lot of work from home type stuff. That's great for us. We had more value being in the office, but to kind of bridge that gap, we're really flexible with the PTO, and I think that helps. And then, I mean, we just say like, look, for the most part, everybody has to work, but there's no reason it has to be a bad experience. So we try, there's all kinds of different things to make it a positive environment. So our culture obviously big to us. That helps. Like, for the most part, people like coming to work here, or at least that's what they tell me. So, um, that's an important part too.
Yeah. And Tiffany, what about you guys? What's maybe some of the benefits that really stand out your team really appreciates?
So I'll kind of, hop on with Andrews a little bit. The flexibility is a huge one, right? In our industry, there's not a lot of, it's not normal to be work from home in this industry, even if you're an admin staff, right? It's very, for our culture, it's very important that we're all here at the branch. But life happens. I have kids, but that doesn't mean that I should have more flexibility than an employee that doesn't have kids, because again, life still happens. You do get sick. You do, you have to go renew your driver's license, and that takes all day long, right? But it needs to be
Mhm.
done. And so being able to be flexible for both ends, being, the employer and the employee, it's a two-way street, right? I can be as flexible with you, but I'm going to need some flexibility back. Do you need to take the day off because you do need to renew your driver's license and you have to go in person? Okay, that's fine. But maybe can you bring your laptop with you so you can get some stuff done while you're waiting at the DMV? Um, so in that requires conversation, right? For both ends. And so I think that, of course, the regular benefits, your health insurance, the PTO and vacation, all of those things, those are kind of, standard, right? I know that with like smaller companies, it's a little bit harder to get health insurance for everybody, especially with like the 50%
Mhm.
sign up rates and all the rules and regulations there. But there's more than you can do than the standard benefits, and it really kind of all ties into the flexibility for both parties.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
totally agree. I think so. Flexibility sounds like a big one. I would third that. I think when you have the ability for someone to work with their hours they like to work, some people really want to be here at 6 a.m. And get in and get their work done and get out by 3 or 4. Others want to have breakfast and take their kids to school, and they're okay working till 5, 6, 7 o'clock. And I think
Right.
that's important. Another thing I've found, and I'm going to just say this is for the entire company, especially if you're a small company growing, the ability to provide your team in the field and in the office with the tools, technology, and equipment that helps them do their job. I've noticed that when our teams in the field have the equipment they truly need to get the job done without breaking their backs. So, like mini skid steers that you stand behind that can get into small areas, or a trencher or excavator. And then people in the field and people in the office, should I say, I'm going to use Team Engine as an example here. If your HR or employee success team, whatever you call that, has a tool like Team Engine, well, when they're fielding applications and they're fielding all of these communications from internal and external people, giving them the technology to do their job better and more effectively is a huge retention tool, because people aren't going to leave your company to go work at another organization that has less equipment, they use more wheelbarrows, and they don't have technology like Team Engine that you got to communicate. So now everything goes, you like reverse back to, pen and paper and text message and email and all these other forms of communication. I feel like that's a really important retention tool that is often overlooked as a tool. We often looked at tools and equipment and technology as ways to make our business more efficient, but not really taking into account the effect it has on team members. Have you guys
Hmm.
seen that with some of the tech that you've implemented?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we go ahead. You first.
sorry, Andrew.
You first.
But as far as technology goes, we use all Apple products. And so each of our managers has an Apple laptop, an iPhone, and an iPad. So that way they're all synced together, right? Like I don't need to have to I'm gonna go out in the field, take pictures, and then I gotta email it to myself and then create a report that I need to send to the customer, right? That's a lot of moving around stuff. But if I take it from my phone and then I can hop on my laptop real quick, I have all the pictures there. I don't need to send it to myself. So and that's something that not a lot of people Apple products are more expensive, but the easeability, if you will, and the
Yeah,
flow is so much worth it. And I get a lot of people that are like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like, I'm so glad that you gave me an iPad. Yes, I can complete pictures and do my site audit from my phone, but your phone is only so big versus an iPad is
Mhm.
a little bit easier on the eyes, right? So,
huge.
yeah.
Andrew, what about you guys?
Yeah, same. We first went through that with our equipment and vehicles. So while it was more expensive, we have relatively new trucks and equipment and stuff. And so, yeah, for the guys, it's a nicer experience. It's they're not breaking down in the field, or even then for us, they're under warranty, so we have less dealing with all the mechanic type stuff in the shops. So that one was just a clear win for us. And then it might come as a surprise. I mean, we have a lot of technology, here in the office. We're not quite all appled out yet, but we do have, all, big monitors and computers and all that kind of stuff. And we're working through, um, depending on the guys, some have iPads, but more and more now have just full laptops, so that's what
Mhm.
they're moving toward.
Yeah, we moved all of our construction teams, all of our crew leaders now have iPads,
Hmm.
and they're, we'll print out a set of blueprints once in a while, but they're kind of not allowed to have paper on job sites. Everything's digital, and makes it as built, makes everything so much easier for them. But shout out Christian. She mentioned in the chat, having the right equipment or the right tool for the job that makes employees' lives easier. I think that's like the key three words in that sentence, or more efficient is a
Hmm.
key driver for retention. So shout out. And if you guys want to throw some more questions in the chat or comments or anything, Phil Garza, I think here, he mentioned 100% noticing team members is one of the most important and powerful and overlooked tools for shaping culture.
Yep.
Well done, Phil. And I think we have a poll that we're going to throw out here as we go into pillar number 2. We're going to move over into career blueprint. And this is such a powerful part of building your company, whether you're a large or a smaller business. Building out career blueprint so people see a path to the future is incredibly important. So we'd love everyone to tune in. There should be a poll popping up here. And basically it's going to be 5 answers. But the question is, what's the toughest part of creating career paths for your team? And I'm going to kind of just take that right into our panelists. Andrew, I'm going to start with you and then go back, Tiffany, after Andrew. I want to bring you into this. But on day one, like when the first employees start at your business, whether it's a technician at an entry level or maybe even a senior manager, how do you ensure they have a future at the company and not just a seasonal job? And I think let's kind of focus in maybe a little bit on the production side here, because I think that's the hardest area to communicate future opportunities. So take it away, Andrew.
So production side, we're in a unique position. So one, also you're fortunate, site's been around since 2007. So it's not, so we have some history, and you got some confidence gonna still, be around then. We're in a unique position where right about half our business is new construction and half is maintenance. So in the off season, as much as we have, one here, instead of having to lay off guys, because your maintenance, you go from 4 or 5, look at me with this terminology now, with the 4 or 5 visits a month down to 2. A lot of the just pure maintenance companies have to lay people off. We move them over to the construction side of our business so we can reallocate them around. And that's a huge win for us when the next season comes around. Then they're already in the system. They already, have all the uniforms. Everything's good. And we don't have to spend as much time, hiring and staffing up then. So that's been huge for us. But I don't know, maybe a little unique to our business. On the non-production side, it has been a challenge. Some positions don't have, at our size, a clear, path like, to manager, VP, whatever. But when we are interviewing, we talk about our company's, goals, and we have some very aggressive, and very roughly that's we're 40 million now and want to be 100 million in 5 years. And so and then we talk there's some implied growth there, like as we grow, there's just going to be more opportunities, so those are the kind of people that are successful here that whatever the need is, there'll be more opportunities for them to grow.
And quick follow up on that. And then Tiffany, I'm coming to you next. But Andrew, when did you join Site Landscape? What was the revenue then? And then what's the revenue today?
It was in beginning of 2019, and they were 20 million in revenue. And then we're 40 now.
So that story, and congrats on that. That's fantastic growth. And so the story of, hey, when we grow more is easily foundationally transmitted to the team, because you can go back and say, look, at the last 5 years, we doubled in size. Hey, with technology and everything else, maybe the next 3 years, 4 years, we can double in size again. And that leads a lot of credibility to what you're saying about growth. I think that's a key element there.
Oh yeah. We've basically proven it. So now we just got to do it bigger.
Yeah. So Tiffany, back to you, and feel free to weave in. I'm looking at the poll. 57% responders say building training programs is their toughest part of creating career paths. So how do you ensure people see the future? And then if there's anything on training too, you want to tie into that, feel free.
You know, as far as to see the future, so we created this company back in 2003. I came on board in 2014. So um, 11 years, almost 12 years. And when we started, we were just around $1 million in revenue, and now we're about $15 million in revenue. So definitely a lot of growing pains over the last 10 years, but it's a necessary evil, if you will. And so, uh, here in Texas, we're more south than Andrew there, but we still do get ice, right? And we are year round. And so we really do try to, in our winter time periods, we really try to ensure that everybody is getting as many hours as we can possibly give them, right? And that's kind of a strategy that you do on the management side in your scheduling. You know, and then one good push too is like winter ryegrass, you know, that we're putting out in the fall. So which means that we have to mow weekly during the winter time, right? Not only does it give our guys hours, it gives the company revenue, but it also makes the customer and their landscaping look great because winter ryegrass is super green, very pretty, all of that stuff. Um, and so I think from day one, showing the bigger picture to your employees, whether they're in the production side or in the administrative side, you know, seeing the bigger picture of where the company is heading and what the aspirations are for the company and what the future shows them, you know, I think goes a lot farther than we think it does because, you know, you don't want to hear, um, as an employee, like, yeah, like, sure, you did this much in revenue, but what does that mean for me, right? Because that revenue, you know, that $15 million isn't going to necessarily go into your pocket, but it goes, you know, to the bigger goal for not only yourself as an employee, but for the company that, you know, you're spending the majority of your time at. um you know, we're working 40, 50 hour weeks, and so, you know, you better love what you're doing because
Those
that's a
are
lot of
rookie
time to
numbers.
yeah,
40, 50 hours.
or you know,
That
in
gets us
that
to
range.
Wednesday. I'm
Yeah,
just
I
kidding. I'm
know.
kidding. I'm kidding.
um
Leave it.
but as far as training goes, you know, that's a tricky one. That's a never ending thing, right? Because we're all learning new things all the time. um and so that's something that we're heavily working on, and it's by per role, right? And so um like right now we're really drastically changing a lot of our processes internally, which then is going to affect the processes that we're doing externally out in the field. And
How are you documenting that? Like, how does that like physically? What are you doing? Is it just in a OneNote or Excel sheets, or using any software or anything for that?
yeah, so our email program is Gmail, so I use a lot of Google Suite stuff.
Hmm.
So you know, Google Sheets and Google Docs. Like for instance, I had a check-in with my CRMs or account managers, and a check-in, and so I shared with them the agenda. And then as we're talking, you know, I'm writing notes in here, and I shared it with them at the end of it. So that way they already know, okay, this is my action items I need to do, and it was very clear. And so that's how we're recording it. And
Yeah.
I really like to use, you know, Google Docs and Google Sheets, and that way, because it's interactive. I
Mhm.
hate when you have to download the Excel sheet, do your
Yeah.
edits, and then re-upload it into wherever you're storing it. And then, you know, who's to say that someone else has that document open and then it saves over it, and it just
Right.
becomes a mess. Um, so that's how we're documenting a lot of it. But we also, in our payroll program, we use Innova. There's also in there, you know, trainings that you can
Hmm.
record. And the same with, we use Aspire as well. You can also do, record like certain trainings or certifications that they've gotten,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Andrew, how do you keep track with 300-ish people, almost 300 people out there running around? Is there a a document that you're tracking each employee on, or an HR system that you're ensuring that each person's getting the attention that they deserve in the career path process?
We're not doing great at it. The answer, we use Innova also, so we track some stuff in there. Do we have the opportunity to track more and be better? Yeah, 100% for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's easier to do one-off what we call growth plans than it is to
Hmm.
have a just everyone follows this strict career ladder. So I think it's good to have the career ladder in the background for the different divisions, right? We have water management, maintenance, enhancements, and then construction. And you have different growth plans in or different career ladders that back up. And then You have someone that comes inevitably, we've all had this, someone that comes says, hey, I got offered more money somewhere else. So match this or I'm leaving. And well, depending on the person, you say, okay, good luck. Or you're like, well, honestly, or you're like, let's talk about this. And I try really hard, really hard to never just say, okay, well, here's a $2 raise. Don't go anywhere, please. It's,
Mhm.
hey, here's how you can make the $2 more per hour if you can do these things. And then Chantel will help build out a growth plan for that person, whether it's a 30-day, 90-day, or 1 year. We've had 1 year growth plans with like checklists along the way. And it enables that person to go and then get training, whether it's
Mhm.
through NALP or another state association, or it's something that we've created. And some of the on the job training will just be signed off by the crew leader or by the supervisor or by the senior leader of that department. And so it enables them to then go out, show their value has improved, and then come back and say, hey, I now deserve this raise. And we're like, yes, you do. And the quicker you can make that happen from when you start the growth plan to when it's completed, I like 30 to 60 days is ideal. The more I think impact it has versus someone that takes a year to get that $2 raise. That kind of loses a lot of the momentum there. So that's one of the
Totally.
tools we've used. I think everyone's been in that position where you're kind of stuck. You really need this person. You don't want to lose them. And your competition, or maybe it's a different trade that's really hard, is offering them more money. And the growth plans is kind of a technique we've used to help get that team member up and running.
Yeah.
So talking more about career paths, if you guys can walk me through, and maybe there's an example out there, someone who started as a technician one, or some call it a laborer one. I don't love that term, but an entry level, and has moved their way into a supervisor, account manager. Andrew, do you have any stories like that, or a specific story that you can share of someone who's done that?
Oh, do I have a good story? No, it's not. Yes, I have a story. We have two. It, so there's been a few cases. So the easy one is, so we've tried to laser focus on what we do. Like we, do the maintenance on certain types of accounts and not spread ourselves too thin. We have now branched out in little things. An example is we used to sub out field mows. We were doing so much. Now we brought that in house. We bought, the big tractors, which was super cool. Um, and so, okay, where are we going to find somebody to do that? So, we first asked our existing people, and we had a few guys like, hey, yeah, I'd like to do that. So it was an opportunity internally for them to, to grow and go into a new position. It wasn't, just like a clear, thing, but that's what I was talking about earlier is these opportunities open up. And, now we have, two guys, all they do is the field mow stuff, so it's more responsibility. They've got that big, it's super expensive, tractor and everything. And then now we have uh, we're we have one full-time battery crew, so that was now we have guys, they're interested in that, and so they're cool and they're walking around the whatever. And then we have the scythe mower crews. So now we got, hey guys, we got this, and they're different. How you got to use them and things. So now we got two guys that are, now their skills are growing and stuff too. So as we have those things come up, those are opportunities for our guys to do stuff. And this winter, who's gonna operate the flamethrower robot dog for site premium ice melt service? That'll be another another opportunity.
How do you, Andrew? How do you pick who gets to step up and take on these opportunities, or is it more of them coming to you?
We haven't been we've I guess been lucky. We haven't been like overwhelmed with because these things require some work, so not all the guys are just jumping at these opportunities, but the ones that are, it's fantastic because they're been doing whatever their job is, and now it's an opportunity for them to do something else. And yeah, we haven't experienced not just all the guys want to do it, because it comes with more responsibility and more
Hmm.
in different work, so it's not just like freebie handouts.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I think you got to recognize the hunger and then reward that
Mhm.
hunger with
Right.
opportunity. Uh, Tiffany, how about you guys? Do you guys have kind of a story of someone who's besides yourself, obviously, the presidente, that has gone and kind of grown through the company in somewhat of a career ladder process, whether
Yeah,
it's been intentional or not?
some have been intentional, some have not, some have just kind of happened. I think that when you do have a new opening that comes up, one thing that we tend to forget about is, telling your existing team that you have an opening, right? How are they supposed to know that you have an opening for an operations manager outside of looking it up online, right? Are you signifying to your existing staff that, hey, we have another opening position where someone can go up the ladder? Are you interested? And do you want to interview for it, right? Some positions you want to promote, and then sometimes you want to hire from outside, right? So it kind of just depends on what your needs are as a business. Sometimes it's better to have a totally new fresh set of eyes, and versus sometimes someone is willing and ready to um, take that opportunity. One good example that I have is one of my managers. He started out as an irrigation repair technician. And he was in that position for probably over a year, I would say. I can't remember off the top of my head. And this is whenever I wasn't the president at this point. I was handling the irrigation repair schedule. Um, and so then he moved into being the irrigation manager. And then he switched over into our construction division and started doing uh base what we called at the time a QC person, so quality control.
Yeah.
And then now he's the head of my construction division, right? With hopefully with a growth plan that we're working on for him to be a branch manager in at about a year or so. So he went from all the way being an irrigation repair technician to now he's like, number 3 in the company. And that didn't happen overnight. He's been with us for 6 years, and so it's definitely been a ladder, if you will. But none of that would be able to happen if he wasn't hungry for more, right? You can't make someone be hungry. They have to want it themselves. Um,
Yeah. And
so that would be my example.
that's a great quote too. Is like, you can't force hunger and opportunity on people, but I'm sure that person who has now moved up from an irrigation tech to where they are today is much more sticky. We use the term sticky as an employee. They're going to stick around. They want to be a part of your culture and your company. I think there's a direct line to how many promotions someone gets to how that retention percentage increases. And once you get someone who's been promoted 3 times, you really have to screw up to have them leave your company, or they move out of the
Yeah.
area or something. Like, I've noticed once
Yep.
you get 3 promotions, it's kind of locked in.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of people at K&D that have been with us for 5, 10, 15, even over 30 years. We've have Juan Sotelo has been with us for over 30 years, which is just crazy.
That is
And then
crazy.
yeah, like, and that's all my dad. Like, my dad's done, anyone that's been with us for more than probably 7 or 8 years. I got to give like 98% of the credit to my dad, because he's created this amazing foundation that we've been able to build on. Well, with all this conversation, I want to shift a little bit into the next pillar. And we've talked about actually all 4 pillars already. I'm going to kind of just summarize the 2 that we just covered for everybody. So, number 1, we opened up with the idea of pillar number 1, compensation, recognition, and benefits. We rolled into the pillar we just spent some time on, which is career building. Pillar number 3 that we're going to go into next is going to be culture and communication. And then pillar number 4 is technology. And I knew this would happen. Technology has been woven into every pillar so far. So we might not spend a lot of time on
Yeah.
just technology as a whole. But I think communication is a great time and a chance for us to kind of talk about, how do we interact with our team? How do we get in touch with people? Especially, as Tiffany, you said, people are in and out of the office, they're in the field. So I want to throw up a poll. Perfect. Thank you, Danielle. Here's a poll. Where do you see the biggest culture or communication gap in your organization? And this is actually kind of a hard question, because I think communication is one of the biggest challenges we have as a landscape industry. I could probably click all these buttons, honestly, for
Yeah.
myself. I mean,
Yeah.
look, guys, like Tiffany, Andrew, and I, we're here sharing our insights and experience, but by no means are we like, we got to figure it out. Here's the system. So if you're
Right.
listening to this, you're
There
like,
should have
I
been
have
a
so,
disclaimer when
yeah,
you
there,
sign up.
this is a disclaimer.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for
If
that.
you're out there and you're listening and being like, man, I really need to work on this, like, don't worry. A lot of what we're sharing is like a bit of a highlight reel, and there's a lot of stuff we're still working on in the moment. So that's the beauty of this webinar.
Mm.
Like I like to say, this podcast, because this is a chance for us to share, truly what's going well, but also a little bit of our vulnerabilities. So I want to go there with you guys. Tiffany, I'm going to start with you, and I want to ask you, like, what is currently your biggest communication gap in your company, and how are you working to improve that gap in your company? And this is a
Ooh.
off the wall question. It's not on our list. So guys, we're freestyling. I think
Yeah.
we've been freestyling for like the last 40 minutes, but what do you think? I mean, that's a tough question. I know I'm giving you some time to answer it, but go ahead.
Yeah, that that is pretty tough. It's an ongoing thing, right? Um, but really, like, so what I'm trying to build right now is, habits, and it doesn't happen overnight. There's a saying out there that it takes 21 days for it to be a habit, right? So that
Mhm.
means doing it every day for 3 weeks, and then it just becomes a part of your normal routine. um and then you have your checklist, and your scorecards is what we use to kind of keep everyone aligned, but really showing. I'll go back to the meeting I had today with my CRMs. They need to schedule their what we call client touches out in advance, so that way the operation teams knows that, hey, Christian, one of my account managers, is going to go to customer XYZ on Thursday of next week. Okay, cool. So I need to go there before Thursday of next week, get a look at how everything is looking, and then report it back to the CRM, so that the CRM, when they have that conversation with that customer, they already kind of know and they're proactive on, yes, I understand your mulch is a little thin, and we got a lot of weeds in the beds, and so we really need to get your mulch refreshed, and here's why. um and that way, internally the team all knows what's going on, both in the field and internally with the admin stuff. And so it's a huge teamwork thing. I hear all the
Yeah.
time, well, I texted so and so, and or I emailed them, or we had a phone call. But if it's not properly documented and you're not following the processes we have in place, I'm sorry, but it didn't happen. But
Yep.
Tiffany, I just talked to them last week. It didn't happen because you didn't document it. And that way, if you're documenting it, that means the whole entire team can see it, not just you. Because I don't want to be in every single one of your emails. I don't want to be in every single one of your phone calls, but we all need to be aware of it. And so I think that, the it's two-way street. We all need to communicate, even if it's good news. Or, I'm sorry, even if it's bad news, we need to
Yeah.
communicate that and come up with a plan, rather than just letting it be bad news bears all the time, right? We need to find the glimmers in all of that as well. And so it just requires a lot of consistency and creating those habits that, staying on the ball and being proactive as much as you can. Fires will happen regardless, but
Yeah.
we can't let the fires determine our lives.
And I totally agree, because negativity is going to spread really easily versus positive.
Yep.
So thank you for that. And Andrew, same question to you. I mean, where are you guys struggling with communication the most, and how are you going about trying to solve that?
That was amazing. I don't want to have to follow that. That was just
I know.
fantastic. I mean, I'm
Thanks.
taking notes as fast as I can. That was good. The community, like you were saying, Justin, we're probably okay, but on all those communication things, all I can think about is how we can be better. And then, yeah, obviously, in our size, we have to use some technology like Team Engine. I'd love being able to, message, just different groups and everybody, all at once. I probably shouldn't be doing that as much as I am, but it then sparks communication, and often with guys that like I don't see very often, and so then now we'll have a little texting, back and forth, and then when I see him in person, we high five or whatever. Um, so yeah, we've just got all the work to do on the communication. On the culture piece is one thing that I'm super proud of that I think we've done okay, and that was the culture wise, the little, where's my blur thing? Those little way cards. Yeah, boom.
Like that with
That
your logo.
yeah, yeah, there it is.
There you go. There
That
you go.
has been
Oh,
so
you
good.
copied him?
No, I didn't
Nice.
copy him.
No,
Okay.
we naturally found the best
Yeah,
way of doing
yeah.
things together.
They were
We just,
gravitated toward the best solutions. Yeah,
Love it.
right?
Love it.
Yeah.
what is this
Great
thing?
minds think alike.
Kelly
Yeah.
wants to know what are these?
So the company is called Culture Wise, and they go through a process. Okay, here's the quick spiel on culture. Culture is an attribute that companies have, like height or something like that. In my experience, places I've worked, or they all have different. Some places are fun to work at, some places are stuffy. Sometimes it depends on the nature of the business. Like a high pressure call center, might have some type A stressed out people, or it might be laid back or whatever. Left unchecked, it manifests itself in different ways, like the strong personalities, things like that. The culture wise took us through a process to define our culture. So not only we said, hey, this is what we're about, but and not that we live up to these fundamentals. We have 34 fundamentals um, every day, but this is who we even strive to be. So it's exponentially further than just having a few core values. And one of my proudest moments, because look, yeah, I'm implementing this to a bunch of construction guys. They're not really talking about culture and stuff ever. And then a few weeks after, when I saw them on their own, part of the deal at the beginning of every meeting with three or more people, we go over the fundamental of the week. A few weeks after and months after, I saw them doing it on their own, and then the communication happening there. Now it's just part of our company, and then that in now we have that foundation should help all these other communication type things that we work on.
Great description of that. And I'll I'll add something to it is the core values we have are like our think of those as the foundation, right? And then this is like what you build on top of your culture foundation. Like you have pillars and supports for a deck, but then the decking has to actually go on for someone to walk on that deck. Otherwise, you're just jumping from pillar to pillar. And so the ability to have these 30 to 35 fundamentals enables the team to actually use them to do their job. And so one of them, my favorite, and this isn't for me because as CEOs and presidents, we can do this. Number 13 for us is speak straight. Speak honestly in a way that helps to make progress, address issues directly with those who are involved or affected. And it goes on to talk about how to just speak straight. And I tell my team, every single person in the company, no matter what your position or how long you've been here, whether it's been a day or 30 years, can take this card, walk into my office and say, hey, number 13. And I immediately know that we need to talk straight about something that they're frustrated about. So this is like their like permission slip to come into the CEO's office and say whatever is on their mind, no matter how much it may upset me to hear. We need to hear that as leaders. So
Hmm.
anyway, big shout out to CultureWise and building this. And I think if you are, Kelly's mentioning your guys are addressing core values, and we thought about changing our core values, and we decided against changing our core values. We decided to actually roll out these 30 fundamentals. And then Andrew mentioned it's a fundamental of the week. So every week we pick a fundamental and we try to be the best at that. And that could be anything from pay attention to the details to keep things fun, have each other's backs. Team Engine's amazing because we can actually text message every employee
Mhm.
on Monday saying,
Hmm.
here's a fundamental of the week. Chantel can get
Exactly.
feedback from people and say, hey, let's just say the fundamental of the week is have each other's backs. Then Chantel throughout the week, who's our employee success team lead, she's messaging on Team Engine like, hey, shout out to Drew, who just helped everybody with this thing that happened and he just had everyone's back. It was totally not his job, but he handled it. Or, like one of our employees worked 22 hours of overtime last week because we just had to get a job done. So Andrew, like you said, that's like 62 hours. That's awesome. And we wanted to shout that out in front of the entire company. And I think that's where Team Engine and technology enables us to really level up our culture and make it more intentional. So love that conversation on culture and all of that. If you guys in the attendees, participants here, if you guys are watching this and you guys have questions for us, drop it in the chat. We're going to try to get to a few of those before the top of the hour, but I want to keep rolling on this. We've talked about technology, that's pillar 4, but culture is ultimately, I think, what keeps people in. When people leave companies, they leave because of leaders often that they don't agree with. Culture, I think, is like the glue that keeps them despite a poor leader. So, how do you guys go about maintaining your culture as you grow? Tiffany, you've had amazing growth over the last 10 years. Andrew, you guys have obviously grown since you started. And in the last 5, you've doubled the company. So, Tiffany, I'm going to start with you. How have you guys been able to manage and maintain that culture, that tight culture that you guys both do have? I've witnessed it while you've grown.
Communication and being clear. There's I just finished Brene Brown Dare to Lead, and
Great
what
book.
is constantly pushed on there is clear is kind, right? And so sometimes being clear, you're providing what you would say would be bad feedback, but you're still being clear, right? You're being direct tactfully, and letting them know, the end result, right? There's not a bunch of fluff in there. There's, straight to the point. And so in culture, I think, we all need a job. We all have bills. We all need to live our lives. And so, yes, there is going to be other companies out there that pay more, or have, or they have a nicer truck that they're going to provide you versus, a beat up truck or whatever it is. But, culture is something that you can't necessarily like repeat at another company. Your culture is unique to you and to your company. And, it kind of ties back into like the golden rule, right? You treat others how you want to be
Ah,
treated.
that's our
Um,
number 34.
there you go. We all
We
learned
added
that
that
in
one.
kindergarten, right? And it still applies to this day as an adult, if not more so, right? And and it also requires as leaders to be vulnerable as well and share your experiences with your employees, the good and the bad, right? Um, and that requires like getting to know people and to share stories and let them come to you and be like, hey, 13, I need to speak straight to you without
Yeah.
you turning back and being pissed at me for being open and honest. And so that it does take a lot from the leadership to be able to understand all of those things and to constantly work on yourselves and grow. um it sucks when someone comes to you and they say like, hey, I'm really struggling with, especially if it's one of your fundamentals, like I'm really struggling with uh the golden rule, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not easy. Yes, you want to treat how you want to be treated, but sometimes it's going to require you to be a little harsh sometimes to get your point across. But maybe that person needs it. Maybe they do need to be like, hey, you're messing up, and what are we going to do to fix this, and how can I help you? So it really just ties back to that constant communication, and being clear as much as you can.
Yeah. That's a great quote. Clear is kind. I mean, that I just wrote that down. That's such a great quote right now. So, Andrew, since we're up against the hour, and I'm going to ask Tiffany, I want your book recommendation. I know you just said Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. Great. What's your book recommendation, Andrew? How, in like one sentence, how can people build a strong culture within their company? And then what's your book recommendation?
The Culture Wise has a book. That'd be it.
Yeah.
The only other book
Yeah. Perfect.
recommendation, if they're not already doing EOS, would be Traction. Even if you don't do the whole official EOS thing, there's so many great concepts in there that can benefit companies of almost any size.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to throw my book out is Multipliers. It's just on topic here. I read it maybe a month ago. Incredible book about people and why 1+1 = 11 when it's the right two people. And that's an incredible one. Tiffany, any other book recommendations besides the Dare to Lead? Oh, Atomic Habits.
Mhm. That's the one
I
I'm
just
reading
started.
right
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
I just started that one with you guys too. So
Nice.
for those who don't know, Andrew and Tiffany are all in the disruptor community that my my partner Drew and I created, and it's super fun. We're reading Atomic Habits right
This
now
one.
as a group. AI driven leader.
What you know what
Ooh.
I realized is I'm a book collector, not a reader. So I've got all these books, but not all the time to read them. I need
To
to
be
keep
honest,
notes.
Yeah.
I love the tangible part of books, but
Yeah.
in my current phase of life, I don't have time to actually read, so I do a lot of audiobooks when I'm
Hmm.
driving around God Green's
Yep.
Earth.
Yeah, love that. And as we wrap, guys, I just want to shout out Team Engine. Team Engine's been an incredible product for our company as we've scaled. We've talked about communication through this
Same.
entire process. And I think whether it's communicating with the team, communicating with candidates, I love the fact you can set up automated communication tools so you can text message someone every week for a month saying like, hey, don't forget to do this, or hey, it's this week, do the fundamental, whatever it is. Automation's awesome on it. So it's a super cool platform. Andrew, what's your number one thing that you love about Team Engine?
Just being able to text all the guys, they like
Yeah.
all at the same time.
Tiffany, how about you?
I do the automations is amazing, especially for new hires, because they'll give you a checkpoint at like you can change it, but the 30-day, like a 60-day and a 90-day. So it kind of gives, that employee, hey, you've been here for 30 days. Is there any, feedback that you can give, or what are you missing? How can we help? And that way, because you do kind of often forget about that. And how are you just gonna set like 300 reminders on your calendar? No, and that's where you need to use technology to help organize yourself in that manner. So those automations they're key because they help everybody stay aligned.
Awesome. And I was just gonna say, Danielle. All right,
There
let's
she
wrap this
is.
thing up. How you doing? Thanks for
Good.
organizing this, Danielle. By the way, thank you.
Yeah. I wanted to just hop on and thank you all for being here. And, this is so much better than putting up a deck of slides and somebody presenting content. I think the real value comes from the conversation, the back and forth, because there's no one size fits all solution, right? That it matters so much between every company, size, culture, all that. So it's just helpful to have that back and forth and hear what's working in different organizations so you can mold that to fit your own. So I'm sure that's, a big, huge benefit of being part of the disruptors community. So we appreciate you all being here to share your wealth of knowledge with us. And I just had a shout out because I love Atomic Habits. I think that's a fantastic book. If you like that, I recommend Tiny Habits. I forget the author's name in this moment, but I think I think the author of Atomic Habits must have read Tiny Habits and then wrote his book. And what I like about it is it turns it into a formula. It makes creating habits formulaic. And once you understand that formula, it's really easy to kind of hack into your brain and create the right habits and also drop the bad habits. So there's my book recommendation.
Cool.
BJ Fogg.
Yes, that's it. Yep.
Nice.
So
I love
I
books.
will, as I said at the beginning of the call, I'll send out a recording of this to everyone. I'll also do a blog post recap, look for some video clips later, and I'll pull all those book recommendations and links and things from the chat into the email as well. And so
Awesome.
I think we can conclude with that. No other questions in the chat, and enjoy the rest of your day, you all.
Awesome.
All right, you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in
See you
today.
guys.
Appreciate you guys. Andrew,
Thank
Tiffany,
you.
Bye.
great job. Thank you guys.
Bye.